Presently, I have prosthetics in both of my eyes. This is from a condition called keratoconus, and then some situations and circumstances that happened after my diagnosis, and multiple surgeries to retain some version of vision. And I'm still training in both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. The question becomes, should you? Now, the reason that question has come up is because I've gotten a few questions from my subscribers, but mostly from people on Google. I have not done a video about my blindness or my eye condition or my prosthetics. But the questions up from my YouTube subscribers is mostly in the realm of like, why do you wear goggles when you spar and when you grapple? I think most people think it's prescription or it's, precautionary, but they don't really know the depth of it. Why would I do that? Other people are finding an article online through my gym's website that explains that I struggle through severe keratoconus to continue on and do the things I do. So let's start at the beginning. Anyone who has keratoconus kind of knows what the beginning of that journey is like. It's stressful. I didn't know what was going on. I was 15 years old, maybe 14 actually. Just a bad itch. Eye was bothering me constantly, eyes, plural. I'm on a small island where I'm from, in Guam. No one knows what's going on. They can't diagnose me. It just gets worse, progressively going blind. At first, it's an astigmatism, right? That's what they tell you, it's astigmatism, because it's a warping of your cornea. I'm not going to go into all the details of what keratoconus is. If you clicked on this video, you probably have it, so you should know. And if you don't, then look it up, because I don't want to bog down the runtime of this video with that. Anyway, it got pretty severe when I was 15, and they had no way to really give me any kind of glasses or anything to correct it while I was on the island. So I basically was just going blind. The first opportunity I had, I got back to the mainland, what we call the mainland, back to the US, and went to a specialist who fitted me with some gas permeable lenses. Anyway, these horrible lenses. Again, if you have keratoconus, you understand what I'm talking about. There are more options now, but back then, there weren't. You just had to, basically you had gas perms, which is like putting a piece of glass in your eye that didn't fit, and it just slid around and scraped your eyelids. Horrible experience. So I didn't wear them. My keratoconus just got really bad to a point where in 2007-ish, I went to an ophthalmologist, a surgeon. He took a look at my right eye specifically. I think it was like 2400 at the time or -14, whatever those numbers mean. But immediately on the spot, he was like, okay, I'm gonna transplant that eye. How does January 27th sound? It's like, it was so severe that he didn't even pause to consider other options. I was just excited to get a specialist who knew about keratoconus and who could help me, so I was happy to get the transplant. At this time, I was not training in MMA, Muay Thai, boxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, anything. I was just working. Got the transplant, and everything was great. Afterwards, after the transplant, actually, I was able to get PRK, and I ended up with 20/25 vision, which I'd never had. I hadn't had since I was like a kid. So it was a very exciting time. I get into training MMA around 2010, 2009-ish, start training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, start training Muay Thai, boxing. I'm doing it all. I don't think about the transplant at the time. I know it's a risk, so I slowly introduce myself into these things. I'm very cautious, I'm very scared. Over time, that caution just falls away because nothing bad is happening. As things go on, comes to me competing, can't compete in the striking or MMA, anything like that. That medical clearance gets shut down. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll just keep training. I love training. So I start competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specifically. I compete a lot. I think in a span of barely 2 years, I win 14 gold medals. I become very good at it. I become very obsessed with it. Again, getting a little more careless each time because there's no consequences. I'm doing fine. As for the Muay Thai and the boxing and everything, I stay away from sparring for a long time. And then I start using these weird helmets that I find from like a Japanese style of combat, but they're horrible, man, and they fog up. But I have to do what I have to do, so I'm wearing like a plexiglass plate. Then they start making headgear that has like a catcher's mask, so I start wearing stuff like that. So then I am sparring, I am striking, so I'm doing all these things. But then, again, I start getting more and more careless. I start taking that stuff off and notice that when the boxing glove is hitting me square, and and then I get better at defending it, and I'm getting away with it. So I don't fear it. So I keep doing these things, and I keep pushing the line further and further and further to where I start thinking I can take a fight. Again, still doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, I don't take a fight here in the States. I can't get medically cleared. So I go to Thailand and I train over there. And then I'm able to do a smoker. And I do this smoker, and again, I get away with it. I win by head kick knockout. I'm top of the world, but then I'm not that stupid. So I stay away. I'm like, okay, that was just a one-time thing. I'm not gonna risk it. I'm gonna stay away from that, because that could have went very bad if my eye came out. Now, the risk you're running, guys, once you have a corneal transplant, or what they call penetrating keratoplasty, okay, is they basically took the cornea off, and they took a donor cornea and they stitched it back into place. Now, once those stitches come out, now sometimes they leave the stitches in permanently, but they don't put dissolving stitches on a cornea. So they pull the stitches out, and the only thing holding your eye in place at that time is scar tissue. But again, I'm getting away with all the things I'm doing. I'm thinking, okay, I can keep doing these things. So I keep doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm moving up the ranks. I did stop competing around 2014. I went to open up my own school. I shifted directions. I had to focus on Muay Thai for a while. My whole journey is in several other videos I have. Maybe I'll put some links to the other videos that explain my journey, as far as my BJJ journey, and then Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. So I go into the coaching realm, and I decide, okay, I'm not gonna compete, and I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna be a fighter, and I'm okay with that, but I wanna keep training, and I wanna keep learning. So I become a coach, and I start learning from the best coaches, and I start cornering, and I start traveling, and I just become very good as a coach. But to be a good coach, I feel like you have to do. So I'm always sparring with the pros and the amateurs. I'm traveling and sparring. I'm grappling with everyone. I'm competing and grappling. And I feel like the sparring I could stay safe because, again, I was wearing headgear, and it doesn't keep your eye completely safe, but it did mitigate some of the contact. And then I develop a way of fighting that I'm very specific in how I protect myself. Again, by all accounts, your doctor or anyone that has this condition or had this surgery would tell you this was careless. And I am telling you, it was careless. 2016, I'm teaching a technique in my jiu-jitsu class. And I'm just teaching a technique. We're not rolling, we're not drilling. I'm showing a technique. As I do it, I touch the student a certain way, and the knee just pops up. It's a knee-jerk reaction. I don't really know what happened or why it happened. But the knee goes up, and the tip of the knee goes right into my eye, and it rips my transplant out. Once the transplant falls, for a split second, I see everything just fall out onto the mat. So what had happened was, when the corneal transplant was ripped open, all the insides of my eye fell out. So my iris, my lens, the vitreous fluid, all of it just fell out. So I instantly closed my eyes. There's no pain, but there's pain. Man, there's pain. But there's no pain in my head. I mean, it's a surreal experience, man. My students are like scooping up my eye innards into a cup. And then the ambulance comes and they put it into a cup, and nobody knows what to do. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna get flagged for this, but I'll see if I can post a picture of basically my eye floating in a cup. So the surgeons are basically like, okay, they'll just have to replace the corneal transplant. So I'm like, okay, it's not as bad. I'll just get another transplanted cornea. But as they look in my eye, they realize again that my iris and my lens came out, and you need those things. Your iris regulates the amount of light that comes in. It's a muscle that contracts and expands, and that's what dilates your eyes. That's gone. Your lens is how you focus, how you see anything, how you get sharpness. That's gone. My retina's intact. So they're excited about that. My retina's intact. They check everything back there, and there's no detachment. So I have vision, but I have no focus, and I can't regulate light. So it's just a flood of light. I can't explain it. If you were to take a plastic bag, hold it in front of your eyes, and flash the brightest light you could find through it, and then try to see, that's pretty much what it was. I have no lens to sharpen or focus on anything, and I have no iris to block light coming in. So they don't know what to do, right? They're talking about prosthetic lenses, hard lenses that I'll have to wear. And it's looking dire. I mean, shockingly, they did get another cornea to transplant, but the tissue that I had was still salvable, which was shocking. So they were able to restitch the previous cornea back onto my eye, which I still have till today, which still blows surgeons away because usually you have to replace that tissue at some point. So you end up with another corneal transplant, but it's still doing great. Anyway, so the same tissue, they stitch it back in place. After that, I have to endure multiple surgeries, okay? So I have to get a vitrectomy because when my eye was ripped open, debris got in there, right? And they don't want any kind of infection, so they have to go in there and they have to basically like puncture holes in there and get a hose in there, suck all the fluid out of my eye and replace it with saline, right? And they have to maintain the eye pressure. Then as they're in there, they scrape scar tissue, so they call it retinal pucker, to ensure that my eyeball doesn't shrivel up as I get older because there's scar tissue inside the bottom layer of the eye. So I'm going through those surgeries. After losing this eye, that was my good eye. So this eye is my bad eye, which was fine because I didn't care how bad this eye was getting because I was 20/25 in the transplanted eye. So with both eyes open, I was basically 20/25. I didn't care. Without this eye, now I'm blind again. The keratoconus is so severe on this side, unchecked. And now I don't have this eye. So as they're trying to figure out how to give me vision back in this eye, I have like horrible vision in this eye. So they give me a scleral lens. And that's a massive piece of glass that you put into your eye. And I don't know how I'm supposed to train with that. So basically training's off the table. You know, I'm wearing an eye patch and I can't train, but I'm still teaching because I just opened a gym. So I'm teaching my classes, but I have to stay away from training, which is fine. I just do the cardio stuff and I just stay away from training as I'm recovering, and then surgery after surgery after surgery. So I find a surgeon in Cherry Creek here in Colorado who does what they call intacs. And the surgeons at the other hospital that I'm at that are taking care of this eye tell me intacs don't work. Well, I don't believe that because I read multiple articles and studies that show that intacs can be of great benefit to severe keratoconus. But the head of surgery at the medical center that I was going to says he doesn't see anything that would prove that would be of benefit to me to help in my left eye. So I find a specialist. I keep searching, I find this surgeon who's been doing it since like the 80s. And he sees me and gives a consult and says, I can help you in that eye. So I go to him and he puts intacs into this left eye. So those are the prosthetics I have in this eye. Those are ring inserts that are put in to flatten out the curve from the keratoconus. And they will be in there forever. Those are in there. And then he did another PRK surgery to flatten it and just adjust it a little better so that I could potentially just wear glasses instead of having to wear the scleral lens. So now I am able to just wear glasses. That fixes this eye. For this eye, the surgeons are like, okay, there's one surgeon in the United States, Dr. Mike Snyder, who does this prosthetic iris that's made in Germany. He's the only one doing it, these surgeries, and none of this is FDA approved. He's working, he has a fellowship, he's working to try to get this FDA approved. We want to send you to him. I said, in Cincinnati? Initially I was like, no, I don't want to do any experimental surgeries. And my surgeon just kept pushing it. He's like, listen, you need to consider this. This is a seriously good option for you. At first I'm like, no. About a year into being, dealing with all that photophobia and everything and having to wear yellow glasses and just not having this eye, I finally said, you know what? Yeah, let me talk to this guy. So I have to fly out to Cincinnati and I meet him and he does all these tests and I'm there for 8 hours, test after test. I have so many tests that I can't even keep my eyelid open. Again, if you have keratoconus and you had to go through like the mapping and all these different tests, you know what I'm talking about, holding your eyelid open. They actually had a nurse following me around holding my eye, physically holding my eye open because I'm only there for one day. So they have to run all these tests in one doctor's appointment just for him to say that he'll work with me. So Dr. Snyder says, okay, he wants to accept me into his program and he can work with me. He wants to do the surgery on me. But I have to agree to flying back and forth to Cincinnati at least 10 times over the next couple years for him to do the surgeries, run the tests, keep an eye on it, doctor's appointments, follow-up appointments to ensure that everything takes perfectly. Of course I say yes, gonna cost a lot, but I'm gonna get my vision back. Basically, he gets the prosthetic eye made to match my other eye, which I have brown eyes, but as you can see in the close-up at the beginning of the video, my eye is blue. Apparently, all of our eyes are blue underneath. Because I asked one of the surgeons, why is my eye blue when I lost my iris? And they said all of our eyes are blue underneath. So, the prosthetic iris, so there's a rim of blue, and like this, and the prosthetic iris is stitched in behind it. So you see the blue, and then you see my brown prosthetic eye behind it. And then there's an IOL lens stitched into that prosthetic iris, and then boom, now I have a lens that gives me focus, and then I have a fixed iris. So light is still a factor because it's not a muscle like your iris is, it's just a fixed diameter. Okay, anyway, I get that surgery. That is the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life. Worst ever.
Usually hurts the most, this little bit right here. And just keep your eyes closed until I tell you. Take this. New one of these. There you go. It looks good.
I can see out of that.
You can see out of the eye.
Wow.
It's going to water a lot, and it's going to be pretty uncomfortable.
Okay.
So that's normal.
It seems like there's floating.
Yes, you've got some stuff in there.
Let's see. It's really red.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty red for a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Just not on the eyeball itself. There you go. Cheekbone down. You can go up to your cheekbone.
Mm.
Yeah, it's gonna water a lot. Then it feels pretty irritated, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep.
Just thinking about it makes my stomach turn. That day after that surgery, the 24 hours after that surgery, I can't even put into words the amount of pain that I felt. Because the pressure, they have to pressurize the eye, so I have to stay there for because if the pressure's off, your eyeball collapses. I had to stay in Cincinnati for a week or 10 days or something so before I could fly to ensure the pressure was right. So I get back, I have vision, I'm excited. Now mind you, after my accident and prior to getting that prosthetic eye, I'm still training. I'm still teaching my students. I'm just being extremely cautious, wearing goggles and stuff like that. I don't think I was rolling at that time, but I wasn't. I think I was maybe sparring. Again, very, very slow, very controlled. When I get back, I'm telling my story, and then one of my professor's other students tells me that he had a detached retina from grappling because I said basically, I can't grapple anymore. And that's kind of the point of this video is some people have reached out and said they were told that they have to find something else to do, that they shouldn't be doing jiu-jitsu anymore. And he says, I have a detached retina and I've had it detached twice. And he's like, I still roll, I just wear goggles, I'm not gonna stop doing what I love doing. So I come back to training, I wear goggles, and then I wear a headgear over to hold the goggles in place, and that's how I roll. Then when I become a brown belt, I get an itch to compete because I've won medals at every belt level that I ever had. So I don't know, I got an itch, I was turning 40 and I got my brown belt and I was like, I'm gonna do a tournament. I roll constantly with these goggles and I have no issues. So I competed with them and I won gold. So I competed with my goggles and my headgear. And I'll show you some footage also, but I also spar that way. I wear goggles, I spar, and it all seems to work. Again, you have to be in an environment that you trust as far as when it comes to sparring, you trust that it's light sparring, people aren't gonna take your head off, or you have to be advanced enough to be able to defend yourself effectively. Because I'm gonna tell you this, even though you're wearing goggles, they slide around, they flip up, you need to be cognizant of that. You need to be fully aware of what's happening. They slide, they move, so as I'm in the middle of a roll, my goggles will slide up when someone's chest is pressing. I will have to move my head and pull them back down onto my face, or I immediately close my eyes and I tap, because I'm not gonna risk my eyes again. Now I say that, and I probably should have stopped training altogether if I didn't want to risk my eyes again. So that takes me to the next point. People ask me, should you still train and can you still train? I still train, that's my choice. Should you still train? If you don't want to put yourself at risk at all, no, you shouldn't still train. Now, when I say that, I just mean contact, sparring, rolling. You can still train. You can hold pads, you can hit pads, you can hit a bag, you can go to class, you can do the drills. You can do these things. And you could even do what I do. But that's your choice. And here's my disclaimer. I'm not recommending anything. I'm just telling you what I did. Now, when I trained, the whole first half of this video was me explaining to you how I lost my eye because I continued to train after having the corneal transplant. And I got careless about it. I would still have, if I would have just put the damn goggles on when I first started training with that first transplant, I would have been fine, I think. But no, I got cocky, careless, whatever. So they never come off now. Now that's another question that gets asked a lot by my subscribers on YouTube is, why do I wear the goggles and why do I wear the head, all that stuff. So now you know, it's because I have prosthetics in both eyes. I shouldn't be doing any of this. But if you're gonna continue to do something that you're passionate about, take the steps to do it safely to protect yourself. If you can protect yourself first, then you can find a way to continue to do things. I look at it as like I have a student who's missing who doesn't have a leg, and I'm in awe of him all the time. The way he can move, the way he grapples, the way he kicks pads. I mean, it doesn't even look like he has a prosthetic leg, the way he moves. I have other students who have other medical things and they inspire me. So first and foremost, I just have to make sure that I keep myself safe. After that, I have to ensure that the environment that I'm in will also keep me safe. So that goes to my teammates and my gym and the vibe and everyone understanding what I'm working with. And from there, I just do it. I personally cannot go without, and I grew my business after my accident. I earned my brown and my black belt after my accident. I became a better striker and striking coach after my accident. Having to be extra cautious, I just became better at those things. I had to change the way I rolled. I had to change the way I fought to account for my medical issue. So anyway, this is how I go about training after losing my vision. So in conclusion, that is how I lost my vision training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, how I recovered from it, how I continue to train with prosthetics in both of my eyes. There are serious risks. If you have not learned that from watching this video and hearing me tell my story, you weren't paying attention. The risks are there. But if you can just put layers upon layers of caution and technique, you could become better and you could do it in a way that can protect you. I don't know, it just never was an option for me to quit, so I had to find a way to do it with what I was dealing with. Again, I'm not recommending anyone do what I did, I'm just telling you what I did. And that's my journey, and that's how I came back from it, and this is how I continue on with it. So I hope that answers the question, and I hope this gives guidance and hope to others. Man, going blind is not anything, it's not something that anyone can really explain to you. It's not something that anyone can really, you can't explain that feeling, losing one of your senses like that. It's a hard thing to go through. And on top of that, I just wasn't willing to give up certain things in my life that gave me purpose and made me happy. But that, again, that's my choice. You need to choose wisely what works for you. If you are not willing to put yourself at risk, do not. The risks are high, but there can be a way to stay in it in some way, shape, or form. It might just be just training and no contact, however that looks for you. If you want to be in that world, be in it in some way, shape, or form, but be cautious and protect yourself first, always. Okay, guys, I hope this video was helpful to the people who asked for it and the people who asked questions. It's a little different speed for this channel, but it is something I did want to talk about for a while. So anyway, if you guys enjoy the content on this channel, I hope you Continue to support us by hitting that like button and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you in the next video.